Yankees Files podcast. We are back. I'm Will Harris, you're Steve Balboni, and the rest of you are fans of the potentially Gerrit Cole-less New York Yankees, who are still projected by Pacoda to be the best team in the American League East, but that margin is becoming increasingly tenuous. Steve, there's much to discuss, including our reaction to losing the presumed ace of the team, everything that's gone on in spring training, how we might have approached the offseason differently. But first, how are you doing?
Could be better, you know. Things were going
That's a
fine.
fair response.
Yeah, spring training was chugging along. I was having a good time watching baseball. Then Luis Gil goes down, and you're like, okay, well, you know, he was an injury risk, and Stanton's gone, but you know, that happens. But Gerrit Cole definitely hurts. Not that it's out of left field, right? I mean, he had arm issues last year. I think this was on the table, but
yeah,
it sucks. It hurts, I think, not more, but just as much from like an emotional standpoint that he's our guy, you know, now he's gone. Whereas on paper, I think there's way, you know, we'll delve into it, but there are ways around it. But it hurts after watching what he did in the playoffs and everything last year, and to think you won't have that now for a year and a half. It sucks.
Ugh. Saying a year and a half feels a little bit like piling on. That hurts.
Well, I mean, it's just the truth, right?
You think even if they do like the new fancy internal brace stuff?
I mean, we'll have to get more info on that.
Yeah.
I think because he's never had one and because he already did. I know it wasn't technically UCL last time, but I just get the sense this one, he's never had it done. I feel like he's going to need to have it done, you know, but who knows?
Oh, man. That would really suck. It would really suck.
I mean, I think that's where we're at. But
maybe he should spend the next year and a half teaching himself to hit so he can come back early as a hitter, Ohtani style.
And I can't see any flaws in that logic. Yeah,
he's homered off Luis Castillo, right?
He did hit some bombs with Pittsburgh back then. Yeah. So, you know,
look,
maybe, I mean, we're paying the guy, you know,
not saying,
put him
just
to work.
Saying. Someone responded to me, you know, the tweet went out that said that Gerrit Cole had received a recommendation to get Tommy John and was seeking a second opinion. And I put out the tweet that said, suppose I offer the opinion that he shouldn't get Tommy John. And someone responded like, he should give us our money back. And I'm bothered by that response for a number of reasons, but my response to that tweet was just, I didn't give him any money. Did you? And of course I didn't get an answer to that, but I've seen some takes on the internet that say that the Yankees should have seen this coming, or like that there's some flaw that leads to Gerrit Cole getting Tommy John. Like, look around the league. Look at what, like, is there any pitcher who's not an injury risk?
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Even
right?
the like kind of soft tossing, like crafty guys.
Yeah,
nobody's safe. Jordan Montgomery has had all kinds of injuries. Like, what do you?
Didn't Ryan Weber need Tommy John?
I believe so. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No, I know there was all this debate about whether, and I still never found the resolution of it. I don't know if it came about, but whether or not the Yankees even had if they chose to opt back in, or if they could have just let him walk, and the discrepancy about that whole thing and what that means. And it's like, I don't even care. I mean, he's Gerrit Cole. He just did what he did for you in the playoffs. He's a part of the organization in a bigger way than we like to talk about, also in terms of building the entire pitching framework and working with other players and everything. They didn't want to let him go. I don't know. I mean, I just don't think it's so easy now to say, oh, you shouldn't have done it. You could have gotten out of the last years. Every Yankees, every team's dream is to have the prime years paid for. Then you could have just gotten out of the older years. Why wouldn't you do that? Why weren't you saying that when this happened then? No one was really upset about Gerrit Cole being back at the time.
And to be clear, to the point that you made at the beginning, it's absolutely not obvious whether the Yankees even had the opportunity to let Cole walk.
Yeah, I'm still not sure about it. It was a whole debate on Twitter last night. I still don't really know the truth of it, but I don't care. I don't care.
It doesn't matter. They were obviously going to bring him back. At one point, I thought they were obviously just going to give him the additional year. But then it was of course the stalemate of he doesn't want the Yankees to call his bluff. The Yankees also don't really want to call his bluff, and that's where it all ended, and Cole came back without the additional year on the deal anyway. I agree with you. I think that any analysis that gets to the conclusion that the Yankees would have been wise to let Cole walk, knowing what they knew in November, is very silly. And it's kind of par for the course for a lot of the stuff that we deal with, but it was never going to happen.
Yeah, it's always this just post facto stuff where it's just it went bad. They shouldn't have done it. Like, yeah, no shit.
It goes back to what Connor McGuire said about how people always act like what happened was obvious, and yet people are terrible at predicting the future. And everyone always forgets that, apparently. So
it's emotional, man. I mean, I get it from the standpoint of just the emotional aspect overriding it is that we don't really have an identity to this team that we understand right now. I mean,
who are the 2025 Yankees going to be?
And people don't know. So you had three like classic heroes coming into 2025: Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and Gerrit Cole. Two of them are now injured, ostensibly for a long time, and the other one people already still hate for some ungodly reason from the playoffs. So that they're entering the season thinking that we have no core, no basis, no anything. And all it'll take is like a 2-week Jason Dominguez heater to change everybody's
and then suddenly
mind.
The idea,
right now it's going to feel that way for a lot of people.
So let's talk about the rotation. Right now, it's probably Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt, Will Warren, and Marcus Stroman. I don't think that rotation is that bad.
No.
I think particularly, like, we talked last year about the arc of Carlos Rodon's season and how he was good with bad peripherals and then bad with peripherals that were not as bad as his performance, and then good with good peripherals, and then the playoffs, like, great with great peripherals.
Right. Yeah.
I was at the start he made against Cleveland at Yankee Stadium. It may be the best game I have ever seen pitched by anyone. Especially given the circumstances. He was incredible. So there was, I think, for much of Carlos Rodon's tenure, some doubt about if the double-digit K per 9 walks under control, low ERA guy still existed. And I think there is now no doubt that Carlos Rodon can still provide that. Are you smirking at Tommy Canley?
No, I'm smirking because my dogs are playing behind me right now, and I'm trying to keep it together.
That's
you're
fair.
Good. Continue. Yeah.
So now that Carlos Rodon has proven that that's there, I think there are things that we can be excited about. And if you suppose or assume that the good results matched with good peripherals were a product of Carlos Rodon changing something, there's a lot of talk about his pitch mix and how he uses his changeup and things of that nature.
Right.
Like, the only thing you really have to root for if he can remain that guy is more normal home run per fly ball stuff, because he was still getting barreled a little bit too much, but he was awesome in spite of that.
Yep.
So Fried, you've talked about it, really needs to stay healthy, in a much more severe way than he did a few days ago.
Yeah.
But Fried, Rodon, Schmidt, who also needs to stay healthy, is a very strong top 3, in my opinion, especially considering what the Yankees have lost. And then who knows what you can get out of Will Warren, but the Yankees have shown an incredible ability to develop pitchers
100%.
internally. Luis Heel is terrific evidence of that. Mike King, Clark Schmidt, the list goes on. And if Marcus Stroman is your 5th guy and he throws however many innings of 4.5 ERA baseball, and you have a competent enough offense, like, it's not a death sentence when Marcus Stroman is on the mound, as much as I would like someone else to be on the mound in those situations.
And ostensibly with better infield defense, maybe even you get a little bit better luck on batted balls, stuff like that for Stroman.
Possibly,
I don't know. But I mean, really, if you compare this rotation right now to the rotation they went into the year with last year, mean, especially not knowing how he would perform and stuff, you could very much so make an argument this is a stronger rotation than the one they went into the season with last year. So
a lot of people are forgetting that the team that went to the World Series last year came into the season without Gerrit Cole and without Max Fried.
Yeah. And coming off an 82-win season, everybody hated the team. They said, "Oh, you got Juan Soto, but you did nothing else. This team isn't going to be good." Blah blah blah. I mean, I would say as a starting foundation, you could make an argument this is a stronger starting foundation than they had last year. Obviously, Juan Soto.
You could,
but everything not Juan Soto based, this is probably a stronger team. There's a stronger foundational bullpen. Last year, the bullpen worked out, but it was a lot of pieces, just mix and match pieces we're trying to put together, trying to cobble together a bullpen, which the Yankees are good at, but they didn't have Devin Williams. They didn't have, now Luke Weaver is more established. So, I mean, there's more there. The offense is probably longer than it was. You have a lot more younger players with upside. You got Jazz for a full season, Austin Wells for a full season, Jason Dominguez.
I'm excited to talk about Austin Wells later this episode.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm excited for a lot of those guys. I think there's just some apathy right now and depression about what's going on. But once the season starts and a couple players break out and start having hot streaks and things like that, it's gonna be fine.
I'd also like to point out, people know that I'm a devotee of the projection systems, and Picoda, my preferred projection system, which you can access at baseballprospectus.com with or without any type of subscription or membership, only projects 4 teams: the Rangers, which surprised me, Seattle, which did not, LA, which did not, and Atlanta, which kind of did, to allow fewer runs than the New York Yankees. So this system has adjusted to project much less Gerrit Cole in the Yankees rotation. It has always had a lot of Marcus Stroman in there. It clearly likes what they've, moved around defensively. As much as it hurts that they've lost so many pitchers and so many pitchers that we like, and really it's just, the 2 guys, but I guess so many innings from the starting rotation from guys that we like, this is still a team that is geared up to allow not a ton of runs. Yeah. When you think about what they're capable of doing with bullpen development, the guys that they brought in, you talked about Devin Williams, and then the quality of the starting rotation, at least on the front end, compounded by what should be improved defense, getting Aaron Judge out of center field, moving Jazz to a position where they were a little bit deficient last year, even though Jazz might be better at third base, but Cabrera's better at third than he is at second. And you have a phenomenal shortstop defender in Volpe, and maybe first base defense gets worse because Ben Rice ends up there, but Goldschmidt's good at it and it's not that important. Like, there are reasons to believe this team will prevent runs effectively.
Yeah.
How confident are you that they can score runs at such a rate that they can capitalize on that run prevention?
That's the question, right? And I think it's an exciting question, I think, because there are just a lot of, how's it going to play out? There aren't a lot of certainties necessarily going into 25. There's a lot of hope and promise, and there are optimistic markers and signs that things could be very good, but I think we need to see sustained performance from guys like Wells and Dominguez, and even Jazz, just a full season. What's he going to do? And will Volpe make strides and XYZ? I mean, just everybody has a little narrative.
I also think it's worth noting that there are many cases in which people conflate the uncertainty that you're talking about with guys effectively being lottery tickets.
Oh yeah,
that's not what we're talking about. Aside from maybe like if Everson Pereira gets some DH run, but Austin Wells had, possibly from a results perspective, if you take out the platoon stuff, which gave him some buffer, possibly from a results perspective, the worst offensive year he could have had given his underlying numbers.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we know what it looks like for Austin Wells to go out and pretty much have all the worst luck in the world, and it's still an above average offensive player.
Sure. It's just about sustainability, right? I mean, just the sample size just isn't big enough, things like that. But yeah, whether or not he can hack it or something like that, we know he can. It's just a matter of can he do it over the course of a full season while catching everything else? I mean, that does take a lot of wear and tear on your body, stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
Jazz
it's just that.
for all the people are talking about him going 30-30. People are talking about him having a season that looks more like 2023. He's an above average offensive player. He's going to give you a WRC plus over 100. Is it going to be 110? Is it going to be 130 like it was in limited time in 2022? Probably closer to 110. But like, that's a good guy to have in your infield.
That's when you say like a lottery ticket. It's not a 0 to 150. It's like, okay, will he be a league average hitter or will he be like a 120, 130 WRC plus hitter? Because he has that in him, and he's a bombastic talker as it is, but he's talking as though he wants to be like totally elite this year. I mean, and obviously you always want that.
I'd love that. That would be awesome.
But I mean, he has the skill set to be crazy good, right? And then that's kind of what I mean. Like, who's going to break out and maybe have that like 130, 140 WRC plus season? Is that in there for somebody? Could that be Bellinger? Could that be Jazz? It's possible.
Who do you think it is?
Probably Bellinger or Jazz. Probably. I would say Wells, but I think Wells catching will just make it too hard for him to be that good. But I do think he can be a very good hitter.
I do want to talk about catcher because I was floored when the Yankees traded Jose Trevino. I thought that they loved having a catching platoon. I thought that they loved having two guys who they liked defensively behind the plate.
Me too.
And obviously they were both cheap. So even with Wells clearly taking control of the job, I was very surprised that they broke up that tandem just given how much they seemed to like it.
I argued against that. Not that I didn't want it to happen, but I remember I thought you did too. I know Whipple definitely.
I pretty definitively told Whipple that I definitively told Whipple that I didn't think Jose Trevino was going anywhere. Obviously didn't know.
I definitely said, I thought I was the only one who said they weren't going to trade him, but
no, I said that very strongly.
We'll check the fact checker on that one.
Yeah, I think it was pre-Steve I said that. Or it could have been on the preview episode, but I was like, I very strongly believe that he wasn't going anywhere.
I didn't think so either. Yeah.
What do you think they're going to do with catcher? Do you think it's going to be Escara and they're going to carry two lefties? Do you think it's going to be Alex Jackson because they've liked the platoon and he doesn't have options? Like,
the platoon element's interesting. I don't know what they might just give up on that. I mean, once that story came out that their internal metrics have Escara as like a 98th percentile defensive catcher.
Which, by the way, we've talked a little bit about the pitching development on this episode.
Right.
What the Yankees have done with catcher defense in the last few years is unbelievable. And Austin Wells is a great example of it on his own because there were plenty of evaluations of him as a prospect that said he would never stick at catcher in the major leagues. And he's, of course, now a top defensive catcher in the game. But the fact that they're now just churning those guys out, that JC Escara, who was as good as out of baseball, is now not only raking, but somehow a phenomenal defensive catcher, despite not being a catcher. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And it's awesome.
The Yankees just put out that great, I think they put it on Twitter, but that great like mini documentary about Austin Wells.
Yeah, you can get it on YouTube as well.
Long. YouTube, yeah. It's great. I mean, it's just quick highlights of this whole situation. But yeah, he got drafted. Not only was he like subpar, he was like a terrible catcher, and he knew it. He was not good. And that video even includes like a minute or two highlight reel of him just sucking at catching. Yeah. And for them to do, I mean, to rewrite that whole narrative that not only is he now adequate, but he's like an elite framer, good blocker, decent, at controlling the base running game. But I mean, he was not going to stick there. It was like a fait accompli. He was not going to stick there. He was going to be a first baseman, maybe even like a corner outfielder or something. And for him to be that good that they're confident moving on from Jose Trevino, who was beloved in the clubhouse and known as one of the elite framing catchers in the game. I mean, and then just to have another guy they can call right up. And they have more. They have other guys down there that they feel equally confident in their, at least their fielding ability. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the bats are as advanced yet, but yeah, it's something. And it'll be interesting if the strike zone stuff ever does come out to be more in play, if that'll wipe away a lot of the advances they've made there, but it doesn't look like that's on the horizon.
Yeah.
Beyond the challenge system anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So Escara or Jackson?
I think they're going to go Ascara just based on the way that the playing time they're getting right now and the talk. No one's talking about Alex Jackson. There's no stories about him coming out really. I think he's more interesting than people want to give him credit for. He takes big time hacks at the ball.
He swings
so hard, and he's shown some power in the minor leagues.
Yeah,
it's not as though this
guy
like doesn't have anything. So I know his major league numbers look pretty just empty, but he's never really gotten a lot of run. He's never gotten a lot of MLB playing time. So I don't think he's a terrible option to have down there, certainly. And yeah, like you said, he does fit being right-handed does fit the platoon better, but I don't know. I mean, they might have like 2.5 catchers on the roster if they keep Ben Rice, which I think they should.
Yeah.
I think at this point they probably will, but it'll be interesting because they'll all be left-handed. And is that really what they want?
No, it's really weird. I do like the idea of just the versatility of Ben Rice being able to get his bat into the lineup a ton, especially against righty pitching, giving him an opportunity to spell Goldschmidt, letting him play some first base. The fact that he's available as a catcher if you get into a funky pinch hitting situation or something. Like, he just offers so much, even beyond his value as an offensive player. Also, I do want to mention about Alex Jackson. He was the 6th pick in the 2014 draft, which means that the Yankees currently have the 3rd and 6th picks from that draft in Carlos Rodon and Alex Jackson. Jackson was 1 pick before Aaron Nola, who I'm sure the Mariners wouldn't have preferred to have at all.
No, definitely not. He's not good. They had his brother Austin Nola for a little bit there.
They did. I was actually recently at a wedding, and the priest who officiated the wedding had also officiated the weddings of both Nolas.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. You had an opportunity to do your favorite thing there, and you didn't do. Actually, you didn't. They have different first names.
Yeah,
but
it's not like
Aaron's
they're both
Nola.
named Aaron Nola. Yeah,
but they both have A's. I don't know.
Yeah, the A's Nola.
The A's Nola.
Yeah. The brothers Nola, I should have gone with, actually, because that's actually a correct way to say things.
It would be, yeah.
All right, so we both have our votes in for Ascara.
I think so. I mean, yeah, I think that makes the most sense.
Do you want to cast a vote for leadoff hitter while you're at it?
I want it to be Austin Wells. And we talked about this last time, and Whipple was very anti-Austin Wells.
Yeah.
I like it, and I mean, it might just be some recency bias because he's been raking in spring leading off and hit another leadoff bomb just today. But I don't know of anyone else that makes more sense. I think it could transition throughout the year, but I think opening day, I think Austin Wells. Not only do I think it should be, if it's not Aaron Judge, but I think it should be Austin Wells. I think it probably will be Austin Wells at this point too. It's looking like that.
I would agree with that. I think that anyone who opposes Austin Wells in the leadoff spot is too attached to a leadoff archetype that is outdated and doesn't really have the value that people think it does. I'd also remind people that the Yankees do not allow the batter who hits ahead of Aaron Judge to attempt stolen bases.
Yes.
They don't do it. It is not allowed. Yeah. Oh, for great reason. Yeah. For absolutely great reason. It is very smart. They shouldn't allow that batter to do that. But like, that's why you shouldn't hit Anthony Volpe. That is one of the reasons why you shouldn't hit Anthony Volpe leadoff. It's one of the reasons you shouldn't hit Jazz leadoff.
Yeah.
Anyone who you're projecting to steal 30 bases, and I've seen a lot of people following the Yankees talking about Volpe and Jazz and Dominguez all being 30 stolen base guys. Well, if that's what you want those guys to produce, you do not want them to hit leadoff because they will not be allowed 100%. To do that. So anyone for whom stealing bases is a big part of their game in your mind, you should take them out of the leadoff conversation. With that said, I don't care if Jason Dominguez steals 5 bases or 50 bases all that much. And if he has like a 340 on base percentage in June and they want to make him the leadoff hitter, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
But Austin Wells and Ben Rice is kind of cut from the same cloth, especially if he gets the strikeouts down a little bit. With the great eye, the willingness to walk, the power, all of that contributing to a strong on-base ability, especially relative to their batting averages. Like, they're both kind of no-brainers to be strong candidates for that spot. I do think the question this raises, though, is they're both guys who have struggled when they don't have the platoon advantage. And I think that is a very obvious way to get Austin Wells some rest, is just not to start him against left-handed pitchers, which is similar to what they did at times last year.
Gets us back to the platoon situation.
I don't think they love Ben Rice against lefty pitchers either. Who, assuming it's not Judge, even though we both know it should be, who would you lead off when the pitcher is left-handed?
I don't think there's even a good answer there, really, right?
I agree.
I mean, I can't think of if he got back to doing what he has done the rest of his career purely in terms of walking, you could lead off Goldschmidt, but I don't think
that's fair.
I mean, if it was any other, if we had gotten him, if he had his 2023 season last year, I would say, lead off Goldschmidt, 100%. He gets on base, like, 360 OVP, whatever it was, really, really strong walk rate. Put him up there. I'd be totally down with that against lefties. But last year, obviously, things were a little different. So, but if he starts walking more again, that would be a totally okay one to do against left-handed pitching. Otherwise, though, I have no idea. I really don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping you would have a good idea that I could just hop on, because I think that is the glaring, like, issue in the lineup to me, is a lack of clear ability to hit left-handed pitching.
Yeah.
And I think that could develop for a number of guys, but like Jason Dominguez struggles a lot more as a right-handed batter. Yep. Wells and Rice struggle when they don't have the platoon advantage. Obviously, you hope, Judge is Judge, and you hope Goldschmidt with the platoon advantage can do some good things. But Cody Bellinger, I guess, has had more even splits, last year, blew away lefties versus, blew away left-handed pitching in 23, but almost all of Cody Bellinger's 2023 was like a weird BABIP effect. But like, he's a competent hitter against lefties and has been for his whole career. So maybe there's an answer there. But like, if I have one fear about the lineup, it's that there just aren't enough guys who I'm confident right now are going to hit left-handed pitching well. I think Wells could grow into that guy. I think Rice could grow into that guy. I think that it's great that Bellinger has had pretty even splits. I think that if Goldschmidt doesn't totally suck, he should have an advantage. But like, I don't know, man. That is like, if that's just like the cheat code to neutralize the Yankees lineup, I'm going to be really annoyed.
Yeah, I mean, they ran into issues against lefties last year too. I think there was a little overblown versus the reality, but it still was a thing.
They were a top 10 offense against lefties.
Yeah. But they were worse against lefties, right?
Yes,
so
they were.
I mean, I don't know. I think we just have to see it play out. So some of the splits haven't been given a lot of time to marinate, so we're gonna have to see.
That's true.
Like, but yeah, I mean, Dominguez, his whole minor league career, he's hit worse against lefties, but it was way worse last year. Like last year, it took the split to an even greater degree. So I mean, that could even out a little bit more. You do have Goldie in there who mashed lefties last year, so that's going to help. Judge, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, this is part of the thing when you just arbitrarily get a lot of left-handed hitters, which I'm not even saying is what happened here. But it's.
I mean, some of it is just like guys who are in the process of panning out for them, in our opinion, happen to hit left-handed or hit better left-handed. Like I wouldn't take Wells or Rice or Dominguez out of the picture because they have deficiencies against left-handed pitching.
Oh, no.
So like, it's a little bit of a bed I'm happy to sleep in. And like, for Jazz, the split has been moving in the right direction, although over the course of its career, it hasn't been good. And maybe for some of these guys, they can still get some goodness out of being a left-handed hitter at Yankee Stadium or something if they're committed to trying to hit home runs. I don't know.
Thankfully, most pitchers are right-handed, right? So
there we go.
That's, we'll just worry about it when it happens.
This is also like people really freaked out in 2022 about the Yankees being too right-handed, but they were wrong for the reason that the Yankees were very right-handed, but they hit right-handed pitching awesome.
That's all that matters. That's
Which was
literally
the
the only thing that matters.
Exactly. If you have a lineup of all lefties, but they're all, you know, they have
Reverse splits or
exactly even
something.
platoon splits or reverse splits, like then it doesn't matter. It's not better to throw a lefty against those guys.
No, you want lefties because ostensibly a left-handed hitter is going to be better against right-handed pitching. But
yes,
all you're
the
actually
average
seeking,
left-handed hitter is.
But all you're actually seeking is the better result against right-handed hitters. Who the hell cares how it happens or what's going to is
it was also like it was particularly ironic. It was particularly ironic because the Yankees lost to the 2022 Astros, who had one of the highest totals of plate appearances by right-handed batters against right-handed pitchers, and won the World Series. So like all these people saying, oh, well, the Yankees are so unbalanced, they can't possibly succeed. Well, an equally unbalanced team went and won the World Series, but
it's never been real. It's never been a real thing.
It is. Just that's a very important thing for people to remember is it's fake. A lot of guys have platoon splits, and that's why people believe what they believe. But because a lot of guys have platoon splits doesn't mean that every guy has platoon splits.
No.
So,
or that only a lefty can take advantage of Yankee Stadium, right? Yeah. Stuff like that. I mean,
look
that's
at
not how it works.
Torres.
Yeah, he's like the best example possible, right?
Yeah.
I'm concerned for him leaving Yankee Stadium.
I'm concerned for him too. I'm concerned for him going to that ballpark generally.
Oh yeah. I'm just concerned for anybody going to Comerica, really. I mean, honestly, anybody. So yeah, I feel bad for him in a way. I hope he's good. I really do.
He's good too. I really do. He will get to play against the Twins a lot.
It's always been good for him. Yep. Yeah.
So,
we'll see. But he doesn't get the Orioles as often anymore.
That's true. He best to him.
Yeah.
I do too. I hope Gary Sanchez does as well. I can't wait to just spend the summer with Gary Sanchez, man. It's going to be
how
so
often he's actually going to play. I mean, they have Adley over there.
James McCann played a lot.
Fair. I don't remember, what did they do with it? Did they just DH Adley or something? A lot? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really
a good amount of moving Adley not behind the plate. There's also, this is a complete tangent, but there are a lot of Orioles fans who seem to not want Adley to stick long-term at catcher and like stick him in a first base DH role because they're so excited about Samuel Basallo. I think that is weird in a lot of ways. And like, if I had Adley Rutschman, who's a terrific defensive catcher and whose offense is much better at catcher relative to his position than it would be as a first base DH, like it's probably not what I would do, but I don't know.
I've always had there is a part of me that anytime a really elite bat who's a catcher prospect is coming up, there's a part of me that doesn't want them to keep catching because I feel like it just always breaks them down at some point and you don't get as much of the elite bat.
But it's also like from the team's perspective.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
If you think about relative to the league, think about how great it would be to have a catcher who is that much better than the average catcher.
Oh yeah, certainly.
Like you're giving something away when you move that guy out of that position. And I think I would bet you that that's a big reason why, in spite of his defensive struggles, the Yankees never moved Gary. Like, I don't think there was a strong hypothesis of like, you know, I really think if we do X, Y, and Z, we can turn this guy into a solid defensive catcher, which of course ultimately did happen, just not when he was a Yankee.
Sure. Yeah, there's no guarantee that you move somebody off. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no guarantee if you move somebody off of catcher that they're going to hit better or anything like that anyway, right? So like what? Like Adley Rutschman posted like a barely over a league average line last year. Do you really want that guy at first base? No, right?
I probably don't.
You probably want him at catcher because he's not going to go start playing like middle infield or something. You know, he's not going to go play a valuable position. That'd be cool. But not cool for us, but it'd be cool to see. Yeah,
it might be cool for us. What if you hit the ball?
He sucks. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, so I mean, it's just it does make sense to keep them there. But there is, I understand the fan impetus to be like, no, let the elite bat not get broken down at catcher kind of thing. The whole Joe Mauer effect. Yeah. But I mean, also Joe Mauer's in the Hall of Fame as a catcher, so that's maybe not the best warning tale of what happens there.
No, definitely not. So talk to me about Will Warren. I think
what about Will Warren?
I think that I want to get your take on my Will Warren assessment, which is
Let's hear it.
I think that he can come up and prevent runs at a average to slightly above average rate
Yeah.
as a major leaguer. And I am very worried about all the people who are demanding that he be in the rotation and calling him the next Michael King. And if he comes up and has like an absolutely solid rookie season, we're going to have to deal with people calling him a bust, even though he was thrust into action, even though he, you know, had a tough year in a few ways last year, even though he would have, you know, acquitted himself very nicely in this hypothetical that I've drawn up.
Sure.
How are you thinking about setting expectations for Will Warren, especially now that his importance on the roster is elevated? He's like that. There's that tweet that's like, I got important at work and it's ruining my life or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he's he's at risk of being in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hilarious that the last tweets we saw about Will Warren from last year, all the takes we saw were just how embarrassing it was that the Yankees even turned to this guy, that he was
Will Warren is going to cost them the division.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was not a take you could have that would one up the worst take possible about Will Warren. And now it's like, oh yeah, he's the savior because he pitches a couple spring training games and a couple of Stuff Plus models come out that show him to be extremely good, which we already knew actually.
Yeah.
If you had been following this, Will Warren's
news.
always had plus stuff. It has gotten better, I will say that. His sinker and four seam are playing up more this year than they have in the past. His sweeper's always been elite. That's been his calling card forever. He's like a 125 Stuff Plus sinker or a sweeper, which is crazy. His changeup is now also a plus pitch, which it hadn't been in the past. So those things, I don't think anybody's actually been tracking that progression in his pitches. They just, you know, are seeing it right now and thinking, now he's elite and he wasn't before or something. He's roughly the same pitcher he was, just a little bit better. And the pitcher he was last year posted almost a 6 ERA in the minor leagues and whatever crazy, awful results he had in the major leagues. So there are issues with Will Warren that he's going to need to overcome. I think a big one for him, just like Michael King and Clark Schmidt, was how to get lefties out. I think hopefully his changeup is going to help him a lot there. But and he also had some bad luck in general last year. If you even just looking in the minor leagues, I think he had 11 Ks per nine. He wasn't walking that many people or anything. So there was some unfortunate home run luck and batted ball luck there. But like you said, I think we can expect positive things. I think there's an outside shot. He could be a good arm, like a beyond just an average arm next year. The stuff is there. But yeah, the expectations that are being built right now are not great, but also I think he's in a fine place from an expectation standpoint. He's 25 years old. He's not like super young. He was terrible last year. It's just the people that are watching spring training right now that are hyping him up, which I don't think is a massive conglomerate of fans. So
Pecota projects him for a 4.37 ERA, like a 24% strikeout rate, a 4.11 FIP, which is a DRA minus, which is like their ERA minus, ERA plus analog of 103. So basically league average. Only has him at 15 starts. That could go up. But like, yeah, I think that's probably who he is. I think that's a reasonable expectation to have. And I think that would be a perfectly fine rookie season for a guy who's in an elevated role as compared to what in February he was expecting.
Be a lot of variance for Will Warren. I mean, I think that's a solid median outcome there. I think there's a very non-zero chance he's good. Like he can be the stuff is there. Like the stuff is like legitimately there. And that's what's fun. So you look at all of his pitches now, his whole repertoire. Now it's not just the sweeper. That's what's so exciting, is if he actually holds this improvement he's made on his fastballs and his changeup, it's like kind of real. Like he's kind of a real pitcher. And there is the chance that he's
no doubt about his ability to miss major league bats, right? Like guys are gonna whiff at his stuff.
It's going to be lefties for me still. It's just can he sustain the whiffs against lefties? Because the sweeper to righties, it's going to get whiffs no matter what. Yeah, that pitch is nasty. It's one of the better breaking balls in baseball. But yeah, we'll see what happens against lefties because that's the Clark Schmidt effect. And Clark had to develop a cutter to do it. So
do you think the changeup does it?
I hope it does. Clark never really got a changeup working. It's always been like his worst pitch. So the fact that Will Warren has I'll have to see what his data comes out from today, but it's graded out as a plus pitch every time out so far. And he's been using it pretty frequently. So I'm hopeful. We'll see.
It'd be fun. It'd be really fun if he's good.
Oh yeah. That'd be a great storyline.
Yeah.
You know, also there isn't a lot of depth after him. So, I mean, we got like Carlos Carrasco, who I'm still an outside part of me is worried that they just go with Carrasco out of camp because they don't want to lose him.
No.
What are they gonna do with him? He'll just be gone. They have
Because
no depth.
he'll opt out if he doesn't make the
Yeah.
roster. Yeah. I guess I see what you're saying. Well, I suppose they could go 6-man at the beginning, right?
They could do a time through
To keep Carrasco.
just to see what happens.
Yeah.
See if anybody gets hurt or anything.
And then I guess you could even like, you could keep that going a couple times through because you could do like, give Warren a start, option him, give Yoendris Gomez a start.
They have to deal
him.
with Gomez too. Well, they don't have options on Gomez.
Oh, he's out of options. Oh
yeah,
my gosh,
that's
you're
a
right.
whole nother. That's a whole nother. And he's not stretched out to start right now, I don't think.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have some log jams. That's the thing. And Warren has options.
So weird.
Yeah. So it's
because there's no way to
chance.
do it with Gomez and Carrasco.
No. Yeah, I know. Unless they do some weird stuff with the bullpen, and I don't even know what. I have to delve into that more. I once we get closer to breaking camp, I feel like somebody else is going to get hurt and something's going to happen, and
exactly
seems to work out. So
we have
no point in
17
stressing
days or something.
Yeah. Plenty of time for another massive heart crushing injury to occur.
Steve, are you doing okay? I know sometimes you just tweet about how you realize that Juan Soto's not a Yankee.
Yeah. Every now and then, $760 million comes float. It's funny. It's almost like actual grief, but in a much less intense way. But the way, like, if not to get dark, but if you ever had it, sometimes you'll just be going through your day and it'll just pop in your mind and it'll like ruin your day. I'll be like at the grocery store and it'll just be like, why $760 million Juan Soto's gone? Why is he not here? Why is he not here anymore? It was supposed to be a joke that 700 million wasn't enough. It's like, oh God.
No, it's brutal. Oh, Alexander Vargas just hit a home run. That's fun.
Oh, nice. I haven't been following.
You're totally right though. I had that. People are gonna think this is lame, but I had that with Gary after the Donaldson trade. I remember like that trade pretty much ruined my life for a solid like week, and then I would think about it. And I'd be like, man, that really sucks. And then, of course, the first time they faced him that year, he hit a home run. And it was like.
With Soto, it was just the whole year that we had him and everything else. I was so certain they were going to keep him. And you start mentally projecting your life. I mean, he's 26 years old. They're going to sign him to a ridiculous. I'll be watching this guy till I'm like 40. Right? Like in my 40s, I'll be watching
longer than that.
Juan Soto. Like, I mean, and he'll be a huge part of my experience. I know it sounds lame, but look, we're here doing this. The Yankees are a big part of our lives, right? This is important to us. He was going to be a part of my, like, over half of my year every year for the next 15 years. Yeah.
And now we don't even know if Gerrit Cole's going to be around.
No, it hurts. At least we have Judge. We have the best hitter in baseball. Yeah.
So Aaron Judge is the best clean hitter since. I just like to keep perspective on this.
Best clean hitter?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we know who for sure was clean from that era? That's part of the...
I mean, I think he's better than everyone from that era who we know for sure was clean.
Probably.
Right?
I mean, Pujols maybe.
Like,
but...
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, it depends on how we're grading it. I mean, in comparison to the league average... Judge would be better, but raw output, Pujols might be comparable.
Yeah, I guess Pujols had some he had some 1100 OPS seasons.
Yeah, he was pretty insane there, and he did it for
3 and 4 years at one point, which was pretty good. But the highest WRC plus there was 180.
Exactly, yeah, 180.
But I think he was certainly better. I think he's certainly better than Miguel Cabrera was. Yes. I think he's better than Mike Trout was. I think there's an argument that he's better than Pujols was.
Yeah.
He's not better than Bonds was, but Bonds wasn't clean.
No one's better than Bonds.
So then you have to go back and then you end up talking about like your Mickey's Mantle and your Willie's Mays and your Ted's Williams, you know? I looked at this. Let me find this. I
mean, the whole
Aaron
compliment
Judge is like he's like the, you know how Baseball Reference has the progressive leaderboards? where they tell you at every moment
Mm-hmm.
who the
Who was
all-time
leading
leader in a
yeah.
given stat was. And like
Yeah.
my favorite one is Babe Ruth, because he became the career OPS plus leader in 1922 and he still has it.
Still has it. That's nuts. He'll always have that because nobody hit home runs back then. So the league average he was beating was just minimal. Yeah.
Yeah, which is good for Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
So per the Fangraphs definition of qualified plate appearances, so when they do their career stat, there's some number, I forget what it is, like 3,000 or something, where when you get to that number of plate appearances, you qualify for the career leaderboards.
Right.
Per the Fangraphs definition of qualified, Aaron Judge is the qualified leader in WRC plus since the start of every single baseball season. Since what year do you think?
I have to mentally think about that question. Okay, so it could be, I don't know. I mean, so does it have to be since he started playing? No, right? It could be.
No, it can be before that.
Before that, right? Yeah. Okay.
Because it's everyone who has had that number of plate appearances since year X, basically.
Since okay. So I don't know, like 1950.
You're kind of close. It's
okay.
You get back to 2004 and Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds, okay,
takes
yeah,
the
but
lead.
Outside of Barry Bonds, I thought we were excluding him. Yeah.
Oh no, I unfortunately was not able to exclude him for that. But
okay.
For every year since 2005, so for the last 2 decades, if you just look up who is the qualified WRC plus leader in baseball in that span, it's Aaron Judge.
Okay. I thought we could have gone back even further just because of, well, anyway. Yeah.
The Bonds effect is actually weird because Bonds is really good late in his career and he has all those awesome seasons. And then as you get earlier in his career, his numbers go down.
Right.
And he gets like overtaken, I think by Ted Williams.
I'd have to see this more to visualize it. It's kind of hard just to like think about it.
Yeah. So what happens is Judge and Bonds have the same career WRC plus actually going into this year.
That's crazy.
But if your sample, like if your time span is such that you only have the end of Bonds' career, his is higher, obviously. So it's Aaron Judge going back 20 years. Then it's like a few years of Bonds because he had a 208 WRC plus from 2001 to the end of his career. But then because they're tied in WRC plus for their careers, it's Judge and Bonds, Judge and Bonds, Judge and Bonds, Judge and Bonds for like decades. Yeah. And then it's Ted Williams and then it's Josh Gibson.
Williams.
Like those are the
Josh
only
Gibson,
guys who have ever been the career leader in WRC plus, basically.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Going back to the end of Josh Gibson's career.
That's nuts. Yeah, and Gibson was that's wow. I still have to familiarize myself more with all the Negro League stats that have been added in. I feel like I'm not familiar enough with many of those names. Josh Gibson certainly I know because he's like the Babe Ruth of that era. But yeah.
One of the tough things about those stats, and this is a complete aside now, but we're in that mode as we're starting to wrap up here. For a lot of the players that we remember as American League, National League, Major League players who also played in the Negro Leagues, very few stats actually got brought over. And that's, of course, because there are very few stats for any of those guys. Like the official stats have Josh Gibson at like 1,500 career plate appearances or something absurdly low. So, like Roy Campanella, for example, played in the Negro Leagues from age 15 to age 23 at various times, and only 900 plate appearances got, moved over to count as major league stats. So it's like, okay, that's 234 games. Does anyone really think that Roy Campanella only played 234 baseball games against that level of competition between age 15 and 23? I don't. So like that stuff is kind of,
it's hard to know how to measure it. Yeah. I mean, and it's also because the way it was structured then, they would play these like performance games. Like they would just go play, they would go play a game to a crowd.
It was exhibition.
Yeah. So So it's a very different kind of thing.
Yeah.
Super cool too to read more about the Negro
Oh,
Leagues
for
if you
sure.
never have. It's amazing. Even if you just play MLB The Show, go do. They have
Yeah.
little storylines things that Bob Kendrick narrates, and another game coming out soon where they do different vignettes on different famous players from the Negro Leagues. You learn a lot, and it's super cool.
Bob Kendrick rules. By
Bob
the way,
Kendrick is the man. Yeah,
Bob Kendrick is the man.
I
Also,
love Bob Kendrick.
If anyone out there hasn't read Joe Posnanski's Baseball 100, either when it was a feature on The Athletic or since it was published as a book, a lot of good Negro Leagues nuggets in there. Just various, like, I certainly, obviously Josh Gibson is quite near the top in that, but like Oscar Charleston is in there, a number of just great great Negro Leagues players who you might not be super familiar with, especially the pre Jackie Robinson among them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely worth reading. There is so much baseball history that we don't know about, and so many unbelievable players that we never. It's like you start to get pissed off that you never got to see these guys play more in the major leagues. The more you read about them, yeah.
I would also like to shout out, since we're talking about guys we never got to see play, shout out to the greatest player of all time from the state of Connecticut, Roger Connor, who played from 1880 to 1897 and is credited with 2 World Series, a batting title, and a Hall of Fame induction, as well as 84.3 Baseball Reference WAR.
Damn.
So shout out my dog, Roger Connor.
I'm not familiar with Mr. Connor.
Yeah, he played for such teams as the Troy Trojans. The rest of the teams he played for really existed. He played for the Phillies, the New York Giants, and the St. Louis Browns. But had an 8.2 WAR season at one point. Legend, Roger Connor. Shout out my dog. Anyway, Steve, it's time for us to wrap up now that we've injected our trademark optimism into Will Warren's season. Although people are going to say that we were like negative about Will Warren, which we weren't.
I don't think we were.
I think I was quite positive about Will Warren.
I was. I think I definitely was. Yeah.
Yeah, but people are going to be like, "Oh, you didn't say he's going to be as good as 2024 Mike King." It's like, yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to say that. I don't know.
I don't know. I think some people are.
We can't succeed if that's the case. I mean, there's nothing we can do if we're being doomers on this episode. I think this is pretty. This is the most optimistic Yankees podcast post Gerrit Cole, Tommy John that's going to come out. I think. Who's going to be more optimistic than this? I mean, my God, and we're not here crying and spelling doom and talking about 2026. So we're already ahead of the game.
I do hope that, like, I think last year, which I rehashed this year, when the Gerrit Cole elbow stuff started, that chatter started happening, I just said, like, what if everything goes great? And I do retain that view. Like, I don't know, maybe everything's just going to go really well in the absence of Gerrit Cole or in the presence of Gerrit Cole. Like, who knows?
The most important thing, we already mentioned it, but just to beat it home again, is that the projection systems that had the Yankees being the best team in the American League did not factor Gerrit Cole that heavily into those projections. Yeah. So they're not losing. They're losing a bigger piece emotionally and how it feels in ways that the Yankees could have played above those projections, certainly, because I think we all thought Gerrit Cole would do more than they were projecting. But they're still a good team. They're not all of a sudden now one of the worst teams in the American League or even a middling team in the American League. There's still a lot to be hopeful for. So
yeah, and we understand that you, the listener, in your mental model might have had Gerrit Cole as far more important to the Yankees than many of the projection systems did.
And I did too. I think we both did, right?
Yeah.
I didn't believe he was going to have a 4 ERA.
Yeah. We just encourage you as you're evaluating those projections to remember that the reason they didn't change very much is because those systems believed and continue to believe that with or without Gerrit Cole, the Yankees have, at the very least, a very competitive team in the American League. Yep. And I continue to believe that.
I do too. I think, look, more injuries. Aaron Judge gets hurt. Max Fried gets hurt. Things change. Yeah. That's true of literally any team.
Every team has a cancel the season 100%. Point when it comes to injuries.
Absolutely. If the Guardians lose Jose Ramirez, I wouldn't watch that team probably at all next year. That wouldn't be worth watching. So it's going to be true of every team. And there's a lot of weight put on a few players now, more so because we've had other injuries, but that's how it goes. Yep. That's the nature of baseball. So
Steve, this is a good transition into confidence. You were close to a 9. You were way up there. And you, of course, made our system more granular. Mm-hmm. How have these various injury reports affected your confidence in the team out of 10?
So the last time We didn't even know, was Stanton even hurt yet? So we've had Stanton, Heel, and Cole now since that last.
No.
Or was Stanton Stanton was already in the.
Yeah, we didn't know, and I think we still don't
right.
quite the extent of the Stanton injury.
Okay. Say a 7.9.
Yeah.
I'll go 7.9.
I feel like 8's the appropriate place to be. I think that I would be a fake fan of projections if I went any lower, but also that that it's appropriate to lower my confidence in the face of the news that we've received.
Yeah, I think, look, if you are, I don't think this is going to exist, but if you are a fan who's still just blindly optimistic and haven't taken a ding at all in terms of how you're projecting the Yankees next year, that's dumb. I think the Yankees are worse now, and that's concerning to a certain degree. But if you're sitting there saying the season's over, why even play it? Let's look to 2026. Well, that's even dumber, honestly. Yeah. That's just stupid. Got 162 games left. One, like I said earlier, one Jason Dominguez hot streak. Everyone's back on board. You know what I mean? Like, it's just going to take some good play well for a month, and everyone's going to be in love with the team again. That's all it's going to take.
I would certainly prefer if more of the guys the Yankees wanted to put on the team were healthy, but I think that is true of every team at every moment.
Always.
At all times. Yeah.
Definitely. Yep.
Well, Steve, it's been a pleasure. As we wrap up here, any parting shots from you?
No, praying for health, man. Just praying for health now. I even just watching a little bit of the spring training game today, like Judge takes a big swing and I'm like, oh shit, okay. Hold it to you know, there's just I'm in that mode again. It'll go away as we start playing games and everything. Yeah. But yeah, you do get that eerie feeling that you're just one thing away from, like, if something like that does happen, I will doom a little bit.
Sure.
And
but at that point, it'll be reasonable. Like, that's the thing.
100%. Yeah. But we're not there yet.
No,
we're not there. So yeah, just keeping my head up, watching some spring. I'm still excited. I think that's the biggest thing. I'm excited to watch Jason Dominguez and Austin Wells and Jazz Chisholm, and hopefully see Anthony Volpe move forward. And let's see what Bellinger does in Yankee Stadium. We got Paul Goldschmidt's on the team. That's only going to happen for 1 year. That's a cool story. There's stuff to be excited about. Let's just go have fun and watch some baseball. That's where my mind's at.
Love it. My parting shot is shout out Dexter's Peralta. Well, people know they can find what we do at yankeesfiles.com. You can follow everything we do on Twitter, where we are at Yankees Files. Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, with the added bonus of video if you are listening on Spotify. Full video podcasts also go up on the Crosstown Sports YouTube channel, youtube.com/@crosstownsports. We will be back at a similar time from a similar place sometime in the future, hopefully to cover a lot of Yankees getting healthy and doing great things and not the opposite. And until then, let's go Yankees.